Hi guys, welcome to the Brewhouse.
When talking beer, water is the base and most important ingredient. Here, we have direct access to a private spring that contains an amazing mineral balance and natural flavor. Tecate, Baja California is famous for its water and its international export quality. Keeping with our standards for excellence, we begin our process through reverse osmosis, where we purify the spring water while carefully keeping its natural mineral qualities. Since Baja Brewmasters is a green company, we reutilize all the water remains for gardening, cleaning, and upkeep of the entire facility. We also have our own lab, where for some, this might be an eccentricity. For Baja Brewmasters, it's a must that we utilize in every part of our brewing process. The mill is where we start to transform the grain. Milling is a process in which the outer layer of grain is crushed, and the inner is broken up to allow the water access the entire grain and transform it. This is a very important process because if the outer shell of the malt is not properly broken, the proteins, enzymes, and properties of the malt will not be activated correctly in the water mixture. Throughout the years, we have developed a special mix of malts, which is a combination of malt from the Northwest US and other specialty malt. This is one of the factors that makes our beer so special. Mixing USA malt with our Mexican pristine water, producing a unique product. We have exclusive permits to import and export US malts freely. Once we have our grain properly milled, we transfer it into our mash tun. In this process, we mix temperature-controlled water with the malts. Here, malts are hydrated to release different types of sugars. Here, the water temperature depends on the beer recipe. Now we move the mixture to the lauter tun. Here, the mash is separated into liquid and residual grain. The grain stays on top and the liquid goes to the false bottom of the tun. We are a green company, so instead of disposing of the spent grain, we create a mixture with this and the trub to feed the region's livestock. The mixture of the healthiest diets for dairy cows and other livestock. This is the kettle. Here is where the wort is transferred to let the brewing begin. Depending on the beer recipe, the temperature is constantly adjusted while adding the hops. Sometimes, a certain amount of hops are added at a certain temperature, then other types of hops are added at a certain temperature to yield the desired style. After the kettle, the wort is pumped into the whirlpool rapidly, which causes the wort to start spinning, which separates coagulated protein from the wort. After the whirlpool, the wort is sent to a fermentation tank. Once it enters, yeast is injected. Yeast is a living organism, and each type of yeast is different depending on the style of beer. When the yeast arrives at our facility, the lab performs a series of processes to check its vitality. Once the fermentation process begins, the yeast starts to eat the sugars released by the wort. The yeast eats, ferments, and releases CO2, which later becomes alcohol. After fermentation, we filter the beer. For that, we use a centrifuge process, which removes the solids and gives us a clear beer. At this point, the liquid is clear and clean, but not perfect. For this, we inject the liquid into our inline flash pasteurizer, which eliminates bacteria and live yeast residues. The beer is now pumped back into the bright tank, and we adjust the CO2 and DO levels. Now, the beer is ready for filling. At Baja Brewmasters, we have 3 forms of filling. We can do kegs, bottles, and cans to suit our client and brand's needs. So throughout this process, we've transformed water and grain into wort into beer. We've cleaned and sterilized our products, and now comes the most important step: enjoy.